This is Note Taking Guide 2.1 for Math 1. So let's get started today. What we're going to learn how to do today is to solve equations. So really we're just undoing what's already been done to the equation. So we want to solve for a variable in this case. My variable is x. So just like I was doing on the last chapter, I like to just isolate my x. So here's my x right here. It's attached to the 6 directly. So I can't move that yet because it's not by itself. It's pretty obvious now that I know I have to move the 18. So in order to get rid of a plus 18, I have to do the opposite to get rid of it. So what's the opposite of adding 18? It would be to subtract 18. So I'm going to subtract 18 to the other side. I did it here to cancel it. 18 minus 18 is 0. I don't have to show that there. So on this side, I have 6x. And on this side, just on your calculators, do 6 minus 18. And when you do that, you get negative 12. Now the x is closer to being by itself. I just got to get rid of that 6 attached to it. How do I get rid of the 6 attached to the x? Well, it's attached by multiplication. In order to get rid of multiplication, I have to do the opposite, which is divide. So I'm going to now divide both sides by 6. It cancels over here. 6 divided by 6 is 1. I don't have to show the 1 in front of the x, but it's there, but I don't have to show it. And then on the other side, negative 12 divided by 6. Just punch that in your calculator. You're going to get negative 2. So your solution is x equals negative 2. Now I can totally plug that back in up here, punch it in my calculator really fast, and make sure when I plug it back in that this side over here equals this side over here. When I do that, I can't go wrong. So I will know whether or not my solution is correct. All right, this next problem, again, solving for x. So again, I like to just circle it, isolate it, know it's got to be by itself. So the 7x has to be by itself so that I can get rid of the 7 off the x. In order to get it by itself, I have to get rid of that minus 4 that's out in front. So how do I get rid of a minus 4 that's out in front? Well, I do the opposite. The opposite of a negative or a subtract 4 would be to add it. So I'm going to add it to the other side of the equal sign. I know sometimes your teachers have taught you to do like a straight line down right there. If you want to do that, that's okay. I just don't choose to do it that way. That's, but I know some of you are better if you keep it organized like that. So over here, we did it to cancel. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. I don't have to show the 0 there. So on this side, I'm left with the 7x. And then on the other side, 3 plus 4 is 7. So my goal again is to get x by itself. The x is attached to a 7. So how do I get rid of a times by 7? I divide both sides by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. I don't have to show the 1 in front of the x. 7 divided by 7 over here is the number 1. So my answer is x equals 1. All right, this one looks a little bit harder because it has a fraction in it, but that's okay. We're going to treat it the same way. I just like to kind of mark what's directly attached to the x, which is that divide by 2. So I'm going to forget about it for a minute and deal with this minus 8 over here because it's got to be I got to get rid of it first. So how do I get rid of a minus 8? Well, to get rid of a minus 8, I do the opposite, which is add 8. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. I did it over here to cancel it. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0, so that's gone. Over here, 14 plus 8 is 22. So I have 22 equals x divided by 2. So again, my goal is to get that x by itself. This x over here is being divided by 2. In order to get rid of the divide by 2, I do the opposite, which would be multiply by 2. Divide by 2 and multiply by 2 cancels over here, so I just get x. And it cancels to the number 1, but I don't have to show the number 1 in front of it. And then on this side over here, 22 times 2 is 44. So my solution is x equals 44. Again, I can substitute that back in and make sure that it works. All right, still trying to get x by itself. Again, directly attached is right here. So I'm going to ignore that part and get rid of that 13 first. That 13 that's attached to it is positive. How do I get rid of a positive 13? Well, I do the opposite of positive, which would be negative or subtract. So I'm going to subtract the 13 to the other side. It cancels over here. 13 minus 13 is 0. So I have that minus 5x because I really need to make sure I keep that sign in front of it. And then over here, 18 minus 13 is 5. X is still not by itself. It has that -5 attached to it. So how do I get rid of a times by -5? Well, I do the opposite of timesing by -5, which is dividing by -5. It will cancel on this side. -5 divided by -5 is 1. So 1x, but I don't have to show the 1 in front of it. Over here, 5 divided by -5 is a -1. So my answer is x equals -1. All right, same kind of thing here. My goal is to get the x by itself here, so I'm going to just kind of ignore that part because it's directly attached to the x. I have to get rid of that +1 first. So how do I get rid of a +1? I do the opposite, which is subtract. So I subtract 1 to the other side. I get x over 4 equals, it cancels here. The +1 and -1 is 0. And then 9 minus 1 is 8. How do I get rid of a divide by 4 attached to the x over here? Well, I do the opposite of divide by 4, which is multiply by 4. So 4 divided by 4 here gives me just that 1x. And 8 times 4 on this side gives me 32. All right, here's another one. Still trying to get x by itself. That's my goal today, is to always get that x by itself. It will help me solve that equation. So I got to get rid of this +8. How do I get rid of a +8? Well, I do the opposite, which would be to subtract. So over here, that cancels to be 0, and I'm left with just a -2x. Over here, I have a -12 minus 8, which would be a -20. You can just punch that in your calculator. It will do it for you. Then I'm just looking at my x again. What's it got attached to it? It has a -2 attached to it by multiplication. How do I get rid of a multiply by -2? Well, I do the opposite, which is divide by a -2. Over here, division, -2 divided by -2 gives me 1. So 1x, and then -20 divided by -2 over here gives me a +10. So my answer is x equals +10. All right. Number 7, this says write an equation from the verbal statement. So we're going to write out an equation. And it doesn't say we have to solve it this time, so that's nice. It says the sum. Who remembers what sum means? Sum means to add. So of a number and 8. So let's call the number n. I just like to call it n because number n, the first letter of the word. So the sum of a number and 8 is 14. So that means we're adding a number and 8 together. And is in math always means equals. So n plus 8 equals 14. All right, number 8 here. I think it's our last problem. It says triple a number. -6 is 24. So triple a number, let's call the number n again. Triple the number would be 3 times the number. So 3 times the number. Minus is subtract. And it says -6, so subtract 6. Is 24. Is again is an equals 24. So 3n minus 6 equals 24. That's the end of today's note-taking guide. You guys, good luck on your homework.